the director of the Bundesbank and lost his job because he spoke out about immigration. He was part of the Social Democratic Party of Germany, and this is why I believe he has melded pan-European nationalism, which is crying out to be spoken about in the media, with social democracy. He was arguing distinctly for a social democratic approach to solving the immigration problem by being able to keep the social democratic institutions which we rely upon to keep our standard of living and our Western civilization going. He detailed 9 points, which I will now read out to you via Kitman's. I have therefore summarised my many points as follows, Thilo Sarrazin said. Number 1, immigration policy, in whatever shape or form, is able to solve the key problem of our democratic development, namely that each generation is about 1/3 smaller than the one that came before. And within this decline of number of children, the relative number of children stemming from uneducated households is constantly on the increase. 2, education is very important, but education is quickly becoming a new fetish of our society. And whatever believes that these problems can be solved through education alone will compel us to live a lie. Immigrants are not simply immigrants. Immigrants from Eastern Europe, India, China and Vietnam pose no integration problems at all in the second generation. By this time, these immigrants have a higher level of education and also have a better employment rate than do indigenous Germans. 10 to 11 million immigrants in Germany and their descendants have no integration problems in the second generation. They constitute an economic and cultural benefit to Germany. 4. All important economic and cultural problems of integration are concentrated around the 4 to 6 million immigrants from Muslim countries. The successful integration of Muslim immigrants already living among us must be given absolute priority over further immigration from Muslim countries. When it comes to these immigrants, education and employment in the second to third generations is far below that of Germans, as well as other immigrant groups and their descendants. And nothing seems to support the case for any sufficient improvements over time in this matter. 5. A troubling tendency to form parallel societies is evident. Only 3% of second generation Turkish immigrants marry a German, whereas 70% of Russian immigrants intermarry. As far as I can tell, these problems are not caused by their ethnic background or racial background. It is the Islamic culture which is responsible for these problems. This culture shapes the values and lifestyles of most of the Muslim immigrants and is only marginally compatible with secular Western society. This is particularly evident in Great Britain, with very dissimilar integration of immigrants from India on one hand, positively, and Pakistan and Bangladesh negatively on the other. These problems burden not just Germany, but all European countries. With a significant number of Muslim immigrants. 7. The problems in economics and cultural integration of immigrants from Islamic countries mean that the economic and societal impact of immigrants from these countries is unquestionably negative to the host society, be that England or Germany. As long as the cultural makeup of these immigrants does not undergo a fundamental change, they will create additional economic and social problems. Not ease the democratic shift. 8. The German and the European welfare state model is not free of blame. The basic social security benefits for an immigrant family in Germany far exceed any realistic appraisal of the income they could obtain in say Eastern Turkey or Lebanon, even without any family member being employed. The vastly improved integration of the same immigrant groups in the United States is mainly due to the fact that they themselves either provide for themselves, leave the country, or never arrive in the first place. The economic growth in later months and the increased demand for work has led to a short-sighted debate about immigration policy. Is this not ironic? For the past 45 years, a self-imposed demographic sinkhole draws closer, and with the precision of clockwork and the pace and weight of an iceberg. And now this sinkhole shows itself in the labour market. Everybody seems frantically astonished. The highest birth rate in Germany was achieved in 1965. That generation is now 45 years old. They are at the peak of their career and productivity and are now entering the so-called declining years. Who will assume their duties? $1.45 million 45-year-olds in Germany currently, but only 950,000 20-year-olds and 600,000 one-year-old children. I would say these were stark figures, frightening figures. Haste does not lead anywhere. Reflection is demanded. And learning from one's own mistakes, from our own mistakes. Immigrants who reject our culture have no education and are mostly attracted by the prospect of social benefits and the prospect of bringing in large numbers of their family relatives. They will in the long run cost our society more than they profit. Many people now want an implementation of point-based system, or use the American green card model for immigrants. I, Thilo Sarrazin, am in favour of this. If Germany had a system resembling that of Australia, New Zealand, Canada or the US, with high barriers for the unskilled and no social benefits for immigrants, then 90% of Muslim immigrants now living in Germany would never have come here. I would like to stress this point. So Thilo Sarrazin there is saying a lot about what we want to say in Europe, that we are sick of people abusing our social democracy and our social market simply to parasite off of us. We need to get to grip with this problem. There are 16 million immigrants in Germany. There are millions of immigrants in other European countries, including England. How can a social democratic state support these people when they're coming here for the reasons that Thilo Sarrazin said? That's why I believe Thilo Sarrazin, although he said he won't run because he's 65 years old, is the only person who can solve the EU's problems and Europe's problems. He is an eminent economist, and I believe he can solve the European crisis as well as the immigration crisis. And what we need is more bailout money for Greece, Spain and Italy in a second run, which Asmussen, the Deputy German Finance Minister, said will happen. And also the EU today has banned Moody's rating agency from commenting on countries which are receiving bailout money.